Hey everybody, it's Papa Todd here again, back at you. I'm going to talk a little bit about the WNBA today and the joke of a league it is. And I would continue to encourage Caitlin Clark to take up some of these offers or at least have these discussions that have reportedly been made about her starting her own league. I think she could do it. This league is not going to sustain because they're trying to get families. That would be their niche, right? Would be families and girls and stuff like this. Um, who's gonna keep watching this? This is and so here's some of the things specifically that go against it, right? So you got um, it's a political activist groups and not political action for like pro girls, pro family, anything like that. No. No, it is for niche groups, right? Less than 1% of the population, right? So you got this whole transgender thing that blew up with Sophie Cunningham is absolutely insane. She doesn't hold some weird far out stance in it. Her stance on this is pretty commonplace. I believe there was a poll, like I saw it, I looked it up. I think it was in 25 New York Times Ipsos poll that was done, right? Not exactly MAGA, right? They went out and they did a poll, and it was like 80% of people polled, right? Again, not a largely conservative audience there, believe that biological men should not play in female sports. End of story. It's a safety issue, right? There's distinct advantages. That's why. But now they're booing Sophie wherever she goes. There's protests happening outside, and that's on both sides, right? There's pro um, pro Sophie's stance, and then pro trans. It's your right to protest, but it gets mean. So why? This is sports. This should be about sports, not about politics, which is what they're trying to do. And then Cheryl Reeves comes out wearing this pro, and you can say whatever you want, everything like that. But I think when you're in the role representing a business, a company, a product, right? When you're doing that, at least during the game, you shouldn't be wearing all this stuff. She's the same one, I believe, that in Caitlin Clark's first year, there was all this stuff about, Caitlin Clark's fans being racist, which again, no proof anywhere of any of that, right? Other than the fact they do like a girl that happens to be white. Maybe that makes us all racist. I don't know. Bozos. Anyway, so so now has that, and all of this just flies in the face of this girl power, right? Which me and my wife, we love. Caitlin Clark got us into women's basketball, and we've supported it for years, right? And I started liking women's basketball way back in the day. Me and my father went to a game in Iowa City years ago. Iowa Penn State, I remember it was. I can't remember the year though. But it was a packed house then, but you would go and you would see a lot of these women's games on TV, and it's sad. They're busting their ass just as hard as the men are, and the men are packing the stadiums, and they're playing in front of 1,000 people, and it's sad. So to me, I'm a supporter of women's sports. Sorry, I just am girls sports. But yeah, so anyway, they were blaming all these fans of being racist and stuff like this, and so she comes out and she's wearing, Black Girls Rule. I think that was her, and I was just like, oh my God, please, really? God. So that's one thing. That's the worst part about it. That's the one that I'm pissed off about this week, right? But then you got a bunch of other stuff. They're refusing, or another one this week, right? Paige Beckers and Angel Reese get caught flashing money, stating that they're making a bet on a game that they're playing in, and nothing happens. I think the league actually came out and said there will be no penalty for this. It's right in the agreement. It's in the CBA. It's right in there. You're not allowed to bet. I mean, you can't, especially in a game that you're playing in, right? It doesn't matter. Pete Rose, lifetime ban, gone. BSU, nothing. You can't take this league seriously. So now they can't do it to the next people, can they? No, you can't. So what are you going to do there? Unless it was Caitlin. I'm pretty damn sure if Caitlin was doing it, she'd get kicked out of the league, morons. The officiating. The officiating looks horrible, right? I mean, my God, if they're not outright rigging calls. I mean, last year's the final, you know, and then they're calling it differently on. It sure looks unbalanced the way they're calling or not calling on Caitlyn. So they actively belittle and just try to ignore the brightest star they have. I'm not saying, there's arguments to be made by people that are smarter than me about basketball that she is the best basketball player all the way around right now. I think when it's all said and done, she will. Even though after today's game, that Olivia Miles, she might make a run at her too. But at the end of the day, they're dismissing her. My God, capitalize on the opportunity you have instead of just going to the defense of everybody else in the league and by insinuation ignoring or making bad insinuations against Caitlin Clark and her fans. For my God's sakes, you have a financial responsibility, guys, right? And so you got that. They investigate Caitlin Clark fans all the time, or Fever fans. I think there's been a couple investigations just because of accusations that turn out to be pretty bullshit, right? So they go to that, they do all that. Of course, now there's crickets to an assault by a fan in Seattle the other night who turned around and spit on a Sophie Cunningham fan. That's assault, folks. You can't do that. Spit on her. It's on film. Nothing coming out of Seattle. They're even investigating it. That fan should be booted out of arenas and not allowed to another WNBA game. That's assault. Yes, it is. If you don't believe me, go look it up. That's assault, right? And so then you got the owner of that same game. I think it was the same game. Yeah, it was the same game. Screaming and yelling and calling names to a couple 16-year-old girls who just had a sign that said, "Thank you, Sophie, for standing up for girls." That was it. That was it. It wasn't anti-trans or anything like that. It was pro-Sophie. That's what it was. And so what do they get? 5-game suspension. Well, do you think she gives a shit? She's probably suffering through those games anyway, right? She probably hates it. It's a horrible freaking product they're putting out there, right? But of course, she was there to watch the Caitlin Clark game, right? So then these other fans, they were like tripping these girls and mocking these girls. These are 16-year-old girls. You would think at a WNBA game, that would be kind of sacred. But no, they just attack them because they don't like, they don't want to stand out there and play against boys. My God, this league, Papa Todd out.